should start by introducing ourselves. My name is Rosas. I'm a core advocate at Between France, a domestic violence agency.
I am Rodica Trifan. I am a hacker.
My name is Rene. Paccha. I'm registered as a court interpreter for Illinois.
So when I first jumped into this group, they were in the middle of discussing what the needs are for limited English proficiency survivors of domestic violence, and just in general, the population that has limited English. And we all know that Chicago is a multicultural city. We live in a multicultural state, and that because of that, many agencies and service providers, even stakeholders like police departments and also courts need to work around that or work with individuals that have a different language. And so we were working on something that can provide that, can connect resources to individuals that need interpreting or need services in their own languages.
Yeah, I'm glad that what I spoke up earlier today. I didn't hear a group that specifically addressed language, although I heard it come up in the intros at the beginning of the conversation. I heard it come up at least twice, so I thought I should raise my hand and make a thing out of it. And thankfully, there was around maybe 7 to 10 people join up in the first start of it. So we knew that language had something to do with the issue of domestic violence when going to get orders of protection, or even when just telling your story to any kind of official or law enforcement. So that's kind of where we started. We knew we had some skills.
And I guess that's
only 2 of us were the technical people, you know. But we just went to work on it, so.
And we benefited greatly from having sites, and we I think we selected a couple of ideas that would be really useful for a DV survivor or potential survivor. I don't think they're that visible here, but those are like the main ideas that we tackled. We said we'd like to, thank you. Well, I guess the main idea was find resources, and that's what this map is focusing on, find resources. While we haven't implemented it, we have the idea and we have the scaffolding, and we're planning on having a work group to complete it. The idea is you can select your language, and based on that you can select different types of services. Say you want to, like the main focus was finding the closest DV organization. The map would show you within the zip code or probably the neighborhood how you can contact those. The map would also be able to show you the closest courts, police stations. Down the road we'd like to have other services like workforce, libraries, special education, so many things that could be integrated into this map. But starting with DV sessions with like the most urgent needs. Secondly, the other features would be more information, like focusing more on information that you as a potential survivor could really benefit from. One would be safety plans. What we meant by safety plans is when you try to reach this app based via your phone or your computer, you leave a track, you leave a history track on your browser. And this will tell you like how can you sort of make your visit to the site not visible. So that you're not, how do I say this, you're safe and there's no suspicion or there's no further penalties or whatever within the household.
If I can just jump in addition to that, a safety plan is also kind of like a checklist of things of what's happening to you right now. Is this something that's urgent? Are you in a, let's say, in a very in a dangerous situation right now? What are some of the steps that you can take? So it would go over what your safety risk or safety assessment is, and then provide you steps on what to take if you're willing to take those steps. Yeah. So, or just to think about ways to keep yourself safe. For example, if you feel that at some point, because of a fight, you know that in 3 days something's going to happen, and you need to make sure that you are going to keep yourself safe, making sure that your phone is always charged, even though that's something that we can all just think about. If you have it in a list of checklists of things that you need to make sure you've done, kind of refreshes your memory in that and keeps it on top of your head. So those are kind of some of the safety plans that are going to be in there as well.
There's something I wanted to add to that also we had in mind of agencies being able to use this as well, at least for getting to their neighborhood's contact information for a...
Yeah, so this isn't just for survivors of domestic violence, or it's also for agencies. So for example, if I'm looking for a domestic violence agency that's closer to the south side, and I don't work in the south side, I work out in Rolling Meadows, but somebody for some reason ends up in my courtroom and they start asking about where's the closest domestic violence agency or center, then I can look into this map and find where it is that's closest to their neighborhood. This is something that's not already out there, even though it sounds like this is maybe something that should be out there, right? But it's not, and so this is going to provide that platform or that easy access to more resources for agencies to use when they're assisting other survivors. Other things that we have in here is the right to an interpreter. So that was kind of one of our biggest points when creating the app, is that when you go to, like, let's say a courthouse and you're looking for an emergency order of protection, as a court advocate, I speak Spanish, so I can speak to someone that speaks Spanish, but I don't know Polish. And even though I may have an advocate that speaks Polish, if that advocate isn't there, then how can we access resources that would assist us with interpreting services? And so that's where, as an agency, I can use that. But as a survivor, they can go in there and find an agency that does provide Polish, and they can go directly to that agency.
Just another side of that coin is if it's Spanish, either way, having to talk to somebody who is taking the training, to someone to speak and understand so as to translate the meaning of legalese, that's important. Things that are happening now, like having the children translate, or worse off, the offender, if that's the only person who knows how to speak both languages to any capacity.
And that kind of takes into another source that we have would like to have in here, is to have a list of definitions that are translated into another language. So it's for me as an agency to be able to use that, to use common language in whatever that other language is. But also it's for the survivor to educate themselves and knowing what language is being used in domestic violence. If they're going to this site and they're reading a definition of domestic violence and they see that something that they've experienced is listed under domestic violence, they're going to be able to associate to that. So it's an educational aspect of it. And then we also have the process of obtaining an order of protection in here, and it would be in different languages. What we've been doing is researching what resources are that already exist, and so we're going to use that as a way to build this, right? So this is kind of going to bring all the resources together in one platform, so that when you go and visit this site, you're able to connect to all the other already available resources that exist.
I just want to add something because I was associated with this project. It won't impact my neutrality at all. But there, shockingly, is nothing like this locally. There is no consolidated place where you can get information about how to best serve limited English proficient survivors, even though almost 1 in 5 people in this city is limited English proficient. And so you have tons of folks, even in mainstream organizations, who are serving immigrant clients, but without any training, resources, or competency in doing so. And so we actually did a lot of research and found language. For example, we talked about how when people are testifying in court, because they're using culturally specific phrases that interpreters and judges aren't familiar with, that's being misinterpreted as not being abuse. So we found a lot of information from around the world and around the country that we can consolidate into this, where people will be able to use it in very practical ways. Like same thing with safety planning, but all the safety planning documents folks have right now are in English. And so folks who are not English speaking aren't getting the same level of protection in terms of planning both for their own immediate safety and for their legal cases.
And something that we also wanted to make sure that it had it, I guess, is that it would be like something simple, so that whoever is going to go into this website is able to use it. So we have easy like click buttons where it will take you to wherever, whatever resource you need. Now, we don't all speak Polish or Spanish or are able to interpret the language that's in this site. But because of that, we're trying to implement pictures. Some of them may be like, for example, a flag of Mexico will then, someone that's from Mexico will click on it knowing that they're going to go to either a site or they're going to get referred to an agency that has Spanish-speaking providers. So, yeah, so that's part of what we would like in this.
Yeah, we have plans for the future to continue building on this. We have discussed establishing a work group. We have discussed also bringing this up at the Chai Hack Night. There's also another hackathon coming up, and we're proposing, maybe we'll get in. The app is set up as a Ruby on Rails app with Bootstrap. It has we've created the scaffold. We have a domain, inmylanguage.com. So it's all ready to go. Yeah.
And also a little thing about the name of In My Language, we didn't want to be too specific to DV, even though that's what we're focusing on tonight. But In My Language, it's kind of friendly to you. It's going to be in your native language, so you're going to go into this looking for services are in your language. So meaning that it's not just going to be DV services, but we're trying to eventually later on maybe expand on this. But right now what we're focusing on is domestic violence.
Questions?
I like the name. It kind of reminds me of like the In Her Shoes stuff. It's really familiar to people doing DB work. So I really like that. Yeah.
We thought it's just a very easy, very approachable
Mhm.
name. Yeah.
Yes.
You could buy domains, like the same phrase in other languages.
Oh. Yeah,
That's
thank
a
you.
Yeah.
Good tip.
Other questions, comments?
Yes.
How did you pick the areas to focus on first within domestic violence?
Took a long time, I think, a long deliberation.
Definitely brainstormed at the beginning, and everything went on the whiteboard.
I think we wanted to really have a map, because that's very, if you're going to a site and you need to find an agency, it's right there. And you're able to just search and be able to click on it. So everything is going to be almost in the first page, and then whatever your need is, you're able to click on it and go there.
I remembered, it did take us a while after we got everything on the whiteboard to just like look at it and be like, oh, now what? It's just, we filled the board, but now we don't know where to start. So it took us a while just to get to the point where like, we should start somewhere first and not tackle it all at once. So I remember that feeling.
Question back here?
How do you guys settle on agencies that are by definition secretive about their location? Or they don't want to put their personal information out?
Yeah. So
It wouldn't come up as a dot.
Yeah.
So it'd come up as like a region of Chicago, so.
like a neighborhood, for example, Pilsen will be highlighted, and there will be like an agency is there, but you at least know the neighborhood that it's.
Yeah, and the contact information will go as far as a name and a number.
Which is all we can actually have.
Right. And because there, frankly, unfortunately, are not that many agencies right now, and they're pretty dispersed geographically, so there's not a huge issue in terms of a concentration of agencies in one neighborhood.
Definitely more neighborhoods than.
So in terms of your plans for going forward, have you saved all of this initial research and data and have sort of a prioritization plan?
We have a GitHub account. We have saved wireframes, mockups of what we'd like to have on the site on the GitHub.
We have an ongoing Google Doc where we have all the resources that we're gathering
Yeah.
and are also kind of, you know, using different people to go through it and see if it's going to be relevant or if it's not relevant at all.
We posted some of our mock-ups and what we put on the whiteboard is kind of the first page of looking at the code.
Other questions?